Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and all those terrible Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. You're listening to Drop the Mic, the only podcast that I listen to that I'm not a part of. Every podcast I listen to, I usually talk on it, but not fucking Drop the Mic. That's where I'm like, let me hear what the boys have to say. And now, we drop the mic.
The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel.
What are you talking about?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to make a successful sequel. Number one, the body count is always bigger. Number two, the death scenes are always much more elaborate.
How do we find the killer, Randy? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's look at the suspects. There's the obvious boyfriend, Derek.
So you think it's Derek?
Not so fast. Forget the boyfriend. It's tired. Who else do we got?
There's
Mickey, the freaky Tarantino film student. But if he's a suspect, so am I. So let's move on.
Maybe you are a suspect.
Well, if I'm a suspect, you're a suspect.
You have a point. Okay, let's move on.
Scream 2. Rated R.
Welcome back to our humble San Diego podcast. This is Drop the Mic, and we are your hosts, Wesley Swanson, James Warney, and Ryan Jimenez. And tonight we have a very special guest joining us. Everyone, please welcome 7 Octoberz, a.k.a. Gabby Moreno, to the show. What's up? How are you?
Good. Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm excited.
No problem. Thank you for coming through. Should be a lot of fun, right? All right, so here's episode 310, entitled Carnage Candy, where we're going to be covering the second installment in the ever-growing Scream franchise. But before we return to the year 1997, let's get warmed up, shall we?
And now for a special news report. Brought to you by Drop the Mic.
Yeah, just a few little pieces of news here. There's a rumor going around that Brendan Fraser is going to be, or he's actually in talks to join the cast of Jumanji 4. So he's making moves. It's not quite, I wouldn't say it's quite the powerhouse that The Whale was, but Jumanji 4 is pretty good, I guess. It's a paycheck. So
hopefully they take The Rock out and just bring in Brendan Fraser.
yeah. I heard that guy's quite hard to work with.
That fool has enough money.
Yeah. Some pretty interesting news. You brought up Tom Cruise before we were recording, but I guess he hit up David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers, and he told him that he wanted a preview screening for himself for The Flash, and he gave it to him. And he, and I quote, said, "This is everything you want in a movie, and it's the kind of movie we need right now." So take with that, I don't know how much you hold Tom Cruise's praises, but I guess in his terms, The Flash is a epic movie, I guess. And then last but not least, the actor Lance Reddick, who most recently is known for his role as the concierge, I believe, in the John Wick franchise, he actually passed away today at the age of 60. He's been in some other things, like he's been in The Wire, but most notably in John Wick more recently. But yeah, he passed away today.
Very sad. R.I.P.
I have a couple, just 3. So I totally forgot to mention this last episode, but our boy Steven Yeun is going to be in the MCU now. I guess he was cast in Marvel's Thunderbolts. So it's yet to be determined who he's playing, but Steven Yeun is in it. Sign me up. I mean, I was already signed up anyway for that movie. But fuck yeah, Steven Yeun's going to be dope in it. Hopefully he plays someone cool. Some crazy news. I think this was like yesterday or today. I don't know how this is going to work, but supposedly they are rebooting or reimagining Faces of Death, and Barbie Ferrer from Euphoria, and then what is his name? Dacre Montgomery from Stranger Things, I think, like the second season, are set to star in it. So that's pretty wild. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I don't know how you're going to make a movie. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know how you would do something like reboot or whatever, reimagining of that type of movie. But I guess, I mean, my ass will probably still be in that seat, so whatever. And then the last little bit of news, according to Deadline, Denzel Washington is in talks to star in Gladiator 2 alongside Paul Mescal and Barry Keoghan.
Did you guys hear the one that they're doing for Guillermo del Toro's in the works of doing Frankenstein with Mia Goth and Oscar Isaac and I think Andrew Garfield?
Great cast, and anything that Del Toro is connected to is always pretty great. So I am stoked on that.
And that's like Frankenstein's like that and like the Haunted Mansion are like his favorite things in the fucking world. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that he's gonna do it justice.
Yeah, I went to his museum thing that he had in LA like a couple years ago, and yeah, he's like obsessed with Frankenstein. He has like a lot of like replicas of like him and his actual like the Bleak House.
Badass.
I don't know if you guys watched the new Evil Dead Rise trailer when it came out like a couple weeks ago, I think, or maybe a month ago. And they said that it's already gotten like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we'll see. I'm excited. I love that whole franchise.
So I think it just had its premiere, and of course, not a lot of people probably have seen it in the grand scope of things, but for it to still be sitting at 100% on Rotten, as fans, that I think makes us very excited to see what it's all about. And from what Ryan was telling me, a lot of people are saying that it's really disgusting and just way more grotesque than anything we've ever seen, which is a very, very bold statement, if you ask me.
That is.
And now it's time for the weekly recommendations.
I don't really have much to rec this week. I haven't really been able to catch up on anything. So, I mean, The Mandalorian. I've been watching that with Jordan. So,
same as James, The Mandalorian. I've only seen these. I think there's 3 episodes out, right? I've seen the first 2.
You just dropped 3.
I like them. I like the way where they're going in the story. I think I know where they're going in the story, especially with that first episode, and kind of seemed like they're foreshadowing something. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm gonna say it again, but goddamn, that last episode was I can't is perfect.
That was good.
I didn't know how they were gonna kind of fit everything into that last episode with the amount of story they still had to tell, but they did it, and they did it perfectly. So, Last of Us, Mandalorian, Pedro, we are your servants. But that's all I got for rec.
I liked Cocaine Bear. I went to go see that one in theaters. It was like, it's a silly movie, but I love like it had a little bit of gore. It was just like, it was just a fun movie. That I would recommend that one probably in theaters just to go watch for fun. And then of course Scream 6. I just went to rewatch it again for a second time. So yeah, those are my recommendations.
Cocaine Bear was so fucking fun. Loved it.
That was actually one of my recs too this week. I watched it, but at home. But creature features are not something we get too often anymore. So this was a pleasant surprise, and the fact that Elizabeth Banks directed this, and then came out at the Oscars with the bear is fucking wild.
Did you hear the rumor where she said that she's playing like a different creature feature? I don't know, they're just joking around, but it's I think it's like a shark one or something.
Really?
Shark. Yeah, cocaine shark or something like that.
Oh no. I'll do a video game rec. I did pick up The Last of Us Part 1. It's the original game rebuilt for the PS5. Looks beautiful. If you haven't picked that up, check it out because the replay value is incredible. And that story is one of the best video game stories of, the past 20 years, if you ask me. So check that out. It's definitely worth it. Even if you played it already, check it out again.
I wouldn't even say just video game story, just story in general.
Yeah.
Like nothing compares to it. Like video game wise, I think the only thing I would put next to it is, because I love that franchise so much, those two so much, is probably Red Dead. But other than that, I don't know how you're putting yourself through that story again, but do you?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the movie focus of the week.
This week, we're continuing our Revisited Reviews section. And we're talking about Scream 2 this time. It's rated R. It's from 1997. It runs at an even 2 hours, and it's got a well-deserved 82 on Rotten. Written by Kevin Williamson, directed by the late Wes Craven, starring Omar Epps, Jada Pinkett, Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Jerry O'Connell, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Timothy Oliphant, Jamie Kennedy, Elise Neal, Liev Schreiber, and, of course, Laurie Metcalf. Picking up 2 years after the events of the original film, our surviving cast members make their way to Windsor College in Ohio, but it's not long before the bodies start piling up once again. With a copycat Ghostface on the loose, no one is safe. The sequel idea had been drafted in advance by the original screenwriter Kevin Williamson, so when Miramax fast-tracked a follow-up, still on the heels of its predecessor, Williamson was confident he could deliver. Despite Scream 2 being slated for release exactly 1 year after the first, with most of the behind-the-scenes crew returning, everything seemed to be off to a great start. However, the internet was, at the time, just becoming a big deal and resulted in a version of the film's script being leaked with the killer's identities already revealed. Williamson was forced to largely rewrite the entire plot, keeping pieces of what was there before. Production started in the summer of 97 and Miramax shelled out $24 million, which was a significantly bigger budget to work with than the original. In an effort to stop the further script leaks, pages were being written largely on the fly, and Craven had to improvise quite a bit. Various dummy scripts were produced to keep the internet and fans at a far with the film's true intentions. Shot in LA and in various parts of California as well as Atlanta, released wide December 12, 1997, the film was a massive hit with fans and critics alike, grossing $172.4 million worldwide. Overall, Scream 2 seems to be playing around with the concept of a sequel, and much like the original did with the slasher genre, it does rather effectively. Bolder action sequences and a change of scenery mixed with the familiar sounds of Marco Beltrami, Danny Elfman, and Hans Zimmer, Part 2's casts shine so bright, it is the rare exception of a sequel being as beloved as its source material, taking its meta-self-referencing nature one step further with an in-universe film entitled Stab and commentary on civilians blaming the movies for their violent crimes. It's safe to say Scream's first sequel was ahead of its time, and despite all the odds, it remains undefeated. 4.5 wet rags out of 5. You can check out the film on the Pluto TV app for free or pick up the new 4K Blu-ray release from last year. Thank you very much.
Nice. Great recap.
All right, Seven. Since you specifically picked this film out of the franchise, we're going to give you the floor. What does this film mean to you, and do you remember when you first saw it?
I don't know if I remember when I first saw it. I think I might have watched it after the fact, because I think I was only like 7 or 8 years old when it actually came out.
Okay.
So I know for sure I watched it, probably like rented it with my parents or something. But I remember watching like the first one, and I just kind of like fell in love with the whole concept of it, like how it, the meta universe within horror and how it's changed the rules. And when the sequel came out, it's one of my favorite sequels for sure, like just the horror genre in general. Because it kind of like even upped the stakes from the first one, because the first one obviously is going to be always the best just because it created Ghostface and all the characters like Sidney Prescott. But part 2, I wasn't going to think like the opening scene would be like the first one, where like Drew Barrymore gets killed, and it was a big deal back in the day, because killing off like one of those like main characters was something that hadn't been really done. And so in part 2, we get Jada Pinkett, right, who gets killed. And I love that opening scene. I think it's one of my favorite opening scenes too for like a horror flick. And that kind of upped the stakes. And then just the guessing game of like who the killer is, and this one it was also 2 killers. But it also kind of like gave a different story too. It was like had to do with like the relatives and also like a student in the school. So that I didn't really see coming. So I guess like the twist of it too at the end. And then of course Wes Craven is one of my favorite directors. So this film. And then I think one of my favorite final girls is Sidney Prescott, just because she's like witty. And I think she's one of the few that's kind of like her longevity in the whole franchise, obviously, with the exception of this new one. But hopefully she gets the pay she deserves and she comes back for part 7. We'll see. But yeah, like part 2, I love it. And then we get the cast again, which is like the original trio, or Jamie Kennedy would be the 4th one, but he obviously in this one, for those who haven't seen it, he doesn't make it. So that's the only thing I think I didn't like about this one, because I really love Jamie Kennedy's character. And then I think Sarah Michelle Gellar too. She gets killed in this one. I wish she had actually stayed a little bit longer, but I know they gotta kill certain characters. So yeah, I really love this film. And of course the scene where Jerry O'Connell, or Derek, sings to Sydney to get her back, I guess, because she kind of wants to keep him at bay because of everything that she can't trust to have someone close to her. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, but I'll let everybody else speak and then we can kind of talk about it more.
I guess I'll go. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as 7 here. So this was in 97, so I had to have been 7 or 8 when this came out as well. So I probably saw this around the same time or right after I saw the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Had to have been, again, a Blockbuster rental, and probably watched it at my cousin's house, because I don't think I was allowed to watch these films with my grandparents, at least at that age. But yeah, I like you said, I think this one really keeps you guessing the whole time. I had kind of remembered that it was Mickey, but I wasn't sure because it's been so long since I've seen this one. But yeah, the whole time you're kind of guessing. They do a really good job, just like in the first one, but yeah, I think even better. Because I think you're getting introduced with so many more characters that you're kind of led to you're kept guessing. Really, you get Cotton coming into this, and then you get Sydney's new boyfriend, and the only bummer I think in this for me was the death of Randy, which I really did like that scene leading up to his demise. But just the whole quote of "You'll never be the leading man," and he's just like "fuck you." You can tell that that really kind of burned him. But yeah, I love his character throughout these 2 films. But yeah, I think. And one thing I want to bring up before I forget, but with Dewey, he's intentionally written look like an idiot, or I feel like, because Alyssa, my wife had brought this up, saying I think it's a thing that we as people in our age group remember Scary Movie, and we associate the Deputy Dewey or whatever his name is in Scary Movie with Dewey. So that makes him, in our minds, like way more dumber than he actually is. I don't know if that's something that I'm just reaching there, or because I feel like he's not given his respect in all of this until I think the last one, 5.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree a little bit. Yeah, like the sister, especially in part 1.
in the original Scary Movie, Deputy Doofy, I believe, is what they call him.
Doofus or something, or Doofy.
He is the killer. So he was just fucking around, like he is just playing with everybody the entire time. So arguably, and then it's funny going back to Scream 2. Dewey even references something like that, where he's like, what if this whole shit I'm doing is
facade.
Yeah. So, like, I can effectively maneuver in any given situation.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It just goes back to even being meta. Dewey is really hurting in this one because of the nerve damage that he gets from the end of the finale of the original Scream, and they kind of keep with that, where he has this little hitch in his walk, and he's not necessarily 100%, but very, very likable character. And the chemistry again between him and Gale. Gale is Gale Weathers is a lot more likable in this one, part 2. It might be even like prime Gale Weathers, Courtney Cox, and I feel the same way about Jamie Kennedy as well. I feel like he should have been in this a little bit longer, because he just he goes for it. I like him even better than what he does in the original. He's like at the top of top form in this, and to see him be savagely murdered to the Cottonmouth Kings is a travesty, and I will never forgive Wes Craven for that. What's funny about that death scene is that there's this false blanket of security where they're like, you're like Ghostface isn't going to do anything. It's broad daylight. They're in there. There's multiple witnesses, and they just pull that rug right from under you. And I don't know.
That's part of the reason why even now I think subconsciously I never stand by vans that have those sliding doors. That's always in the back of my head. That's the scene. It stuck with me since I was a little kid.
It kept it safe.
Yeah.
Billy's mom, who I believe her name is Nancy, right? Nancy Loomis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nancy Loomis.
She takes credit for Randy's murder later on when she's like, it's not wise to talk bad about my son while I have a gun, Sydney. Randy spoke poor about my boy, and I got a little knife happy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that's always stuck with me too, where she totally takes credit for that death. But I do think that largely throughout this film, it does seem like it's Mickey doing. Nancy does Randy, and she goes after Gail because there's a lot of words between Debbie Salt, which is Nancy Loomis's alter ego, and Gail Weathers, where Gail is like really mean to her and kind of creating like this animosity where she would try to go after her. So I think that it's Gail that's when we see the ghost face that goes after Gail later on in the film, that's all Nancy, right? And then the rest of the majority of kills is Mickey doing under the ghost face guys. But that's just an opinion, I guess. But I don't think Nancy is gonna go be able to throw Buffy off the ledge, if you know what I'm saying. She just got done doing a 9-year stint on Roseanne, and she's already middle-aged. I don't think she's going to be throwing Buffy off of building. The Cece scene is so fucking good, but what is the genre's beef with Sarah Michelle Gellar? Because she
gets killed in those one.
Yeah. Just over that summer, I think it's 97, the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, they fucking kill her. And I think she's a lot better than Jennifer Love Hewitt in that movie, so
I agree.
What the fuck? And then Scream 2, they kill off Cece Cooper almost immediately. And it's pretty rough. I'm not sure if they're just playing around with our expectations, because we do. Even now, right now, I think a lot of us see her and we see Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so they're like, let's fuck with them and kill her off because they're never going to expect.
Was she a big at that time?
She was already filming. She was filming Buffy, I think.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
Do you think, as my opinion, do you think that they just added her to the cast to throw us off? Because it's such a high profile name.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill her off in the beginning.
I did. I read in my research that she did. She said yes without hesitation because of the originals. How well received it was and how much money it made. They were just like, "Do you want to be in Scream 2?" And she didn't even know what character she was going to be, and she was just like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Like whatever it is, I'll do it."
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's known for that. Scream, the whole franchise is killing the person that you didn't think was gonna die, adding all these cool actors that are pretty well known or shitty protagonists,
or just or even cameos where they have Joshua Jackson in the school talking about films, uncredited, and you never see him ever again.
Yeah, only in the film class, and then was Rebecca Gayheart, who also came out in Urban Legend, I think the following year.
Yeah,
she's the killer.
Jawbreaker as well.
Yeah, Jawbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add anything else other than what you guys did. I think it works so well as a sequel. Everything works well, from the cast to the up the ante, how meta it is. The fucking score with adding who they added to do that. the kills I think are better than the first one. At least I think so. Especially Randy's. His is, like you guys said, it was fucking brutal. I think it was more brutal because he was such a beloved character as well. You didn't want to see him go. And yeah, the whole Sarah Michelle Gellar thing, I think that's exactly why they did it, because she was so big at the time. And you picture her as this fucking vampire slayer, and then she gets thrown off the fucking
balcony
without a fighting chance.
And then Everclear starts playing, or whatever fucking band.
What about the camera guy? The camera guy was like the only one that actually decided to leave. I think I remember watching.
Smart. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not gonna get killed.
He's also in the faculty. He's a cop in the faculty.
Oh, that's right, the cop. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm a leave because my van is now an official crime scene, and Gail's like, you can't leave me, please don't go. I need you. And he's like, no, you need to have your head examined. He's got some good one-liners for real.
Yeah. I think Randy's. I think one of my favorites were like they asked him like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" He's like, "Showgirls." He got all like the. I was like, I think that's why I loved him, because he had all like the good one-liners, and I don't know, he kept like the fun of the movie. So when he got killed off, I was like, damn, they should have waited till like the end or something. I don't know.
I feel like that he's a character that like they have to like. I mean, obviously Craven didn't obviously know that they were going to be doing 4 and then 5 and 6, but I'm sure they kicked themselves for making that decision on killing him off, because he was such a beloved character. Like, how rad would it have been to have him these last 2? I know they kind of give you his niece is basically kind of the same character, but he never got his damn justice.
So from what I was reading, the internet leaks actually forced Kevin Williamson to kind of change like the what happened with Randy. So I think that not even just with his character, but all the deaths, like nobody knew who was going to die until they were about to shoot it, is from what I gather in the research. But had we not got that leak, maybe he wouldn't have died.
Have you ever seen those leaks?
Interesting. It's interesting you bring that up, okay? Because back in 2017, Kevin Williamson basically tried to say that the initial leak, which caused them to rewrite the whole script, supposedly was never actually happened, and it was a dummy script, and they had like 4 dummy scripts on purpose. So I don't know why he's trying to backtrack now, but now he's saying like that there was never an actual leak. Which is kind of confusing. I don't know what to believe. But supposedly in history, Scream 2 is one of the very first movies to actually suffer production issues because of an internet leak.
I was reading, didn't it have to do with the movie theater scene too? Like there was just so many extras that they couldn't contain leaks like that.
Yeah, people were basically going on internet chat boards and stuff and just saying everything that they saw, like as witnesses at that when they open up at the Rialto. And this is a great segue into something that is, upon watching this 2 or 3 times again in preparation for the show, right? They open up at the Rialto Theater, which is in LA, right? Somewhere. But this movie, Nev and Randy, they are at Windsor College, which is in Ohio. So, like, why are these students, Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett's characters respectively, why are they going to an LA premiere for Stab? And why are they, like, how did Mickey or Nancy or whoever, why did they, and I understand they chose them because of their names and they're doing like a copycat thing for the first film, are the first victims, right? But why would anybody from Ohio, why are they like, yeah, let's go to fucking LA tonight for this premiere for Stab? But, and the way that they set it up is they're already in the area because remember, she's like, no, I want to go see Sandra Bullock or whatever. So they're not even set on seeing Stab. So it's kind of strange how.
Do they ever say that where they're at? Do they say it's in Ohio, or we're just assuming that because the school's there, or do they say that they're in that state? I can't remember.
I don't know if they actually say it, but the Windsor College is fictional. It's made up for the movie. But in all the research and everything online, it does say that they are supposed to be relocated in Ohio and not Woodsboro.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that they would open up with an iconic theater that everybody's going to recognize. I don't know if we're just supposed to be do that suspension of disbelief where it's just like a random theater and they just did that, threw that in there to be cheeky. But it's just funny that if they really were that far away from Ohio, why would Sydney and everybody be like, oh, this has to do with me, you know, like something for you guys to look out for when you watch this your next time. The killer is left-handed through a lot of these scenes, and if you watch, Mickey is left-handed, and was it Sid's best friend, Elise Neal, I think her name is, Hallie is also left-handed in this, and that's because supposedly, I know I just said that Kevin Williamson said that like the leaked script was a fake or whatever, but assuming that that's not true, the leaked script, the killers were originally supposed to be Derek and Hallie, and they were like a secret couple, right? And they want to get whatever revenge on Sydney for whatever reason, which would have been cool to see that cut too, because there's a lot of kind of Easter eggs and red herring stuff that make Hallie and Derek kind of look suspicious, and I think it's because it was initially written for them in mind, which is cool because we kind of get that story in 5, you know, with the kind of Bonnie and Clyde couple that goes rogue and they're just like, fuck everybody or whatever, which is.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting.
Like I said, Ryan and James, I'm trying to bring something new to the table. So don't shame me.
I mean, you watched it 7 times, so I would assume that you'd have to bring something new to the table. And that's 7 times the last week, probably.
Yeah.
Scream 2, I think, is the one that I've seen the most throughout my life. I remember, so this dropped in 1998, probably the winter of 1998 on VHS. I remember getting it on VHS with my family. They hid the tape in like some bullshit movie, like Never Ending Story Part 3 or something like that. And then, they pretended to put it on, and then, you know, I was all, these trailers don't match. Like, what the fuck is this? And I could vividly remember that. And watching the movie, and I remember somebody was like, who do you think the killer is? And I was like, yo, it's at least one of them is Mickey. And everyone was like, no, there's no way it's fucking him. It's not Mickey. And then it was indeed the freaky Tarantino film student. But yeah, Scream 2 was the only VHS, for whatever reason, I think from this franchise. Like when we had VHS at my house before I was an adult and I bought them all for myself, we only had part 2. So this is the one that I've seen a bunch of times, countless times. And then me and Ryan and I went to see 1 and 2, the double feature, one summer at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and the special guest Tori Spelling of all people showed up, and it's the most random guest ever, but it was still very, very fun time.
Talking about her, that's another thing I think I love about the film is the stab, right? Like that's the first time we see a film within a film.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, and then obviously Tori Spelling, and ironically, I think Sydney called it right or something. She's like, "With my luck, I'll get Tori Spelling to play me."
Yes, in the first one.
Which I was like, that's hilarious that they like asked her to do it and she did it. I was like, that's awesome. And then Luke Wilson as Billy Loomis is like hilarious.
So stupid
with the hair, like
with the hair.
And then he's like, oh duh, or whatever. Where he's like that scene where they're fighting or whatever with Sydney. I was like, but yeah, I really love that. Like the fact that they did that and like the whole cast and what's it called? Heather Graham plays Drew Barrymore. In the beginning sequence too, which is kind of ironic, which I like that too, how they did that play where they play that movie, that opening scene kind of, so it's kind of like a redundant scene because that's where it starts with like Jada Pinkett and the boyfriend, going to the movie theater and they're watching that shower scene and which they obviously added some drama to the stab.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love that idea, and I don't think any other horror movie has done that where they like, put a movie within a movie and parody itself.
It's when Heather Graham, the dialogue is so like dumb when she's like, I don't even know you and already I dislike you. And yeah, that stab movie within a movie culture is something that's continued on through the contemporary stuff. So excited to talk about all the other references once we get moving on down. Scream 2 is pretty fucking rad. And this is this the first one that has the jingle, the that kind of Western jingle for Dewey, where he
fucking
where that becomes his kind of like signature card where Dewey's coming up. Yeah. And that's that score was lifted from Broken Arrow. It's a Hans Zimmer.
Oh, yeah. John Travolta.
It's a crazy fact, Sorry, James. That we didn't mention last week for the first episode, and it goes into this one because I think it kind of made the same amount worldwide. Is that up until Halloween 2018, the first one was like the highest grossing horror film of all time, and so then when the second one came out, I think it topped that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, by like $27 million, I think it made more.
Yeah,
than the first
crazy
one. Especially for a rated R horror film.
Yeah.
What's
crazy with all the great movies that we've got between Scream and Scream 2 and Halloween 2018, like nothing dethroned it. It's wild to think about that.
Like how? How?
What I wanted to ask you guys is kind of it about the opening scene. Have you guys ever been to a screening of a movie that was that wild?
No, I wish. I was like, how would they allow those people with masks? I don't know, and fake knives. I'm like, I don't know about that.
I would have been pissed. I was like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to watch the movie.
How about you, Wes? Have you ever been to a screening of something like that where it's just kind of been out of control?
Yeah, not kind of close, but not like with all the souvenirs and the popcorn throwing and how it's just like unruly. But I went to see, and you guys are going to laugh at me and be like, oh, this is so on brand for Wesley. But I went to a midnight screening of A Human Centipede Part 2, and it was...
oh, God.
And yeah, it was fucking wild-ass crowd. Just like laughing and just... it was an experience, I'll say that.
I went to... my dad took me to go see... The first one wasn't even like that, so I don't even know why. And like, I would never think that type of crowd would be like that. But we went to go see. He took me to see like the second Attack of the Clones, and like me and my brother waited. We legit waited like fucking 15 hours in line just to see it. So like, I was like fucking tired. I was fucking done with it. It was in the biggest at the time. It was the biggest until it was demolished a couple of years ago, it was still it was the biggest screen in the Bay Area, and it was in San Jose, the biggest 70 millimeter screen, and the fucking theater was huge. It was massive. But there were people throwing fucking beach balls everywhere, like fucking like it was wild. And I'll never forget, like I had this big ass popcorn, walking down the aisle, about to sit in my seat, and someone pegged the shit out of me with a fucking beach ball, and like my popcorn went fucking everywhere, like it was like out of a movie. And like I stood there like wanting to fucking hurt somebody, and my dad was like, "Do it, Ryan." And I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12. I was so pissed, but it was exactly like that fucking screen. Like people were standing up, screaming and yelling. Like it was wild. Like, it's fucking Star Wars, bro. It's not fucking. It's so crazy.
While we're talking about that scene in particular, our good buddy Chris Pollock was pointing out to me earlier off air how insensitive it was to be so like that they're so excited about this movie about real life murders that happened in Woodsboro. You know, like in the universe, this movie is based on true events, and you're acting like that at the premiere. And they're giving away the costume that the murderers wore. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on?
I think it's like probably poking fun too of like how people are though, like with serial killers, how we like glorify them. It was probably like Wes Craven's idea. I was like, what, that would be hilarious.
Yep.
We're just like glorifying this killer.
And also another thing for them doing that as a studio, or Miramax doing that, is so ballsy, because I don't know how far you guys got in your research for the first one, but there were several cases of copycat killers in real life that went out and hurt people or stabbed somebody, and then they, turn around and said, "Yeah, I was watching Scream a couple hours ago, and I wanted to, know what it felt like to kill somebody." And then for Scream 2 to turn around and just be like, "Yeah, like fuck all of that. We're gonna make fun of that within the plot or like reference it." It's just, that's nuts. And now I can understand why they told the studio and Wes Craven to calm it down for part 3, and that's probably why part 3 is not as well received, and it wasn't written by Kevin Williamson. But let's stay away from that before we talk too much about it. Yeah, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on people saying that Scream 6 is now like the best sequel? Anybody agree with that here?
I would put it third place for me now. It kind of moved up for me. I'd probably be like the first one, because the first and the second are my like tie.
Okay.
And then after that would have been maybe like part 4, but now it's like part 6 and then part 4. At least for me.
All right. You gonna plead the fifth?
I'm in the no. I'm in the same. I don't know. I think, you know what? I like right now, I would definitely still put it behind 1 and 2, but I think I told you this off air, was I think I need to see it again a couple more times. And if I see it again a couple more times, I think it might surpass 2 for me. And it just like it's just because it's different. Like it's just, I talk about that all the time. I just love how it's different. They kind of flip the script on you. And that, even if I fucking hated the movie, like I would still appreciate the fact that they were ballsy enough to kind of do something a little different. But yeah, I would say I could see why people, especially younger generations, liking. I've even seen people say that it's the best one out of all of them. I'm not going to go that far.
Like, go sit down somewhere, all right?
But as of right now, I think I'd put it 3. But 5 and 6, they work so well. Like Radio Silence, they've just done. They've understood what the assignment, and I think if Wes was still around, I think he would be very happy and pleased with what they've done with the franchise so far.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the new movie for crushing the box office. I think it's is that 44 for its first weekend?
Highest ever for a movie in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made I'm going to assume it's made its money back, right? Already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, probably.
You guys want to hear some Swan facts? So before the studio had settled on the straightforward Scream 2 title, some potential titles were Scream the sequel, which is probably the best one. Scream Again. and then Scream Louder. The stab scenes featured in the movie, which feature, of course, Heather Graham, Tori Spelling, and Luke Wilson, were all directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
So awesome.
David Warner was cast as Sid's theater professor because of his work on The Omen. You also may remember him from TMNT, Secret of the Ooze, Tron, Money Talks, and Titanic.
Yeah, I remember him in The Omen. I think they said something about David Arquette's actual dad played the chief police or something, Hartley or something like that.
Yeah, that's his actual father.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what I wanted to, I think, I mean, we still have a couple more movies to cover, but I wanted to ask, since we have a special guest, do you think, would you guys mind it? Would you guys like it if they like took the meta to like a whole new level and kind of broke the fourth wall, kind of peeled things back a little bit?
If you mean by that, have a movie where we are introduced to the killer and we know it's the killer the entire time and no one else does, I'm into that.
Or like, how about like if it plays out like a regular Scream, like say it happens and then like one of the characters comes, like looks at the camera and says something like, this is what you guys wanted, we gave it to you, but this is how it's really going to go down, and it kind of reveal the real killer. I think it's something new and fresh to think about, and it'd be hilarious for them to do.
Yeah, like maybe like I can see like it's a social media, like a vlog, like you're following along, like something like that. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Radio silence, see?
All I'm thinking about is when you say like breaking the fourth wall, I'm constantly thinking of Deadpool. So
it's a great thing though. I mean, it'd be awesome for them to do something like that too, where one of the characters is kind of knows they're in a movie.
I was thinking actually for this new one, I know I don't want to stray away from the second one, but like how the whole cult, well, at least in the trailer they make it look like it's like kind of like some sort of cult. That's what I was thinking it was going to be that. But it would be cool to see that if maybe they kind of do something like that, where like this one obviously had I don't want to give it away, but we've seen from the past movies that there's always like more than one killer. I think like the only one that had one was part 3, but it'd be cool to expand on that kind of universe of like a cult following and maybe like more than 3 or 4 killers.
Just 10 killers just fucking going wild.
Yeah, Wes, did you I picked up on it because I watch Friends all the time, but they reference both Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer.
That's right. Yeah. I
didn't know if that was like a dig at them or just
it had to have been.
She's like, oh, those when Randy's like, those nude leaks of Gail, and she's like, that was my face, but on Jennifer Aniston's body. And then David Schwimmer plays Dewey in the parody film or the film inside the film.
Remember when Randy's like, yeah, I'll wait for the video.
Yeah.
Couple of these, because Nev was in the middle of shooting Party of 5 while she shot this. So she would shoot this all night, not sleep, and then when she would get off, just go and shoot Party of 5.
That's wild.
Working 24 hours. And then, like I said, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in the middle of, she had just wrapped I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then she was currently shooting Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So it was probably that's probably why we didn't get to see as much of her. Like her role is kind of cut back. Still good though. And then of course Courtney Cox of Friends fame as well. Also, did anybody in this last episode, I was talking about how if you listen to the sound design, you can hear Stu while he's Ghostface. Well, in this one, I feel like they do a similar thing. Not sure if it's Wes Craven being a master of editing or what have you, or if I'm just crazy or whatnot. But when Omar Epps goes into that stall in that infamous opening scene, you can hear like a whimpering where they say something like, "Don't tell mommy what you did, Billy," or something like that, and that's a huge clue as to who one of the killers end up being.
Oh yeah.
And also,
they do that a lot in these movies, I think. Because even the newer one too, right? They did something similar to that too, where like I rewatched it again for the second time, the new one, and I like it leaves like little, kind of like leading to who the killer was, and I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. Like you have to kind of pay attention.
Yeah, it's like a detective story, Batman style. But also, and how they stab Omar through the stall is like, what the fuck? First of all, how did you guess
how's
that?
Possible?
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you guys. So, reading some reviews for this movie when it came out initially, I think it was Roger Ebert who said that it's a great follow up, but that the gore is worse, and that it was distracting from its witty script. So it was almost like we paid more attention to the violence as opposed to how well it was written. Do you guys agree with that? Or
I don't agree.
Because I feel like even it is violent, but I don't know if it would be if you would say it more violent. Besides that car wreck and the bodyguards, those detectives getting kind of fucked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like everything else is kind of like okay. It's more like led to the imagination, but I don't know if I would say it's. Yeah, I think there's more victims, but I don't know if I would say it's gorier the way that.
I think the kills are more brutal, but gorier. I mean, that opening scene in the first one, Drew's boyfriend gets fucking gutted, and his guts come out.
That's true. Yeah. Even compared to the newer one, too, the newer one I felt like was more gorier and brutal with the deaths. Even this one, part 2. I mean, the stall one is to me. I was like, shit. How do you even can you put a knife through a fucking stall door? Obviously, I don't think that's possible. But in this movie, they did it. So I think that was one of the brutal deaths, and like you said, the one where the cops get killed.
So there's another interesting story about this production where, if you listen to our first episode, I talk about the fact that Wes had a really bad experience with the MPAA during editing and had to edit the original like something like 8 or 9 times, different cuts. So he initially made Scream 2 like all of the death scenes more violent. He did a cut and sent the MPAA a cut that was more violent on purpose so that they would be like, you need to edit this down, and then they could edit it down to the way that they actually wanted it. So it was like some weird manipulation shit. And then when he sends them the cut that's like way more like Omar Epps gets stabbed like 5 times in the stall through the wall, and I think Randy gets his throat slit, shit like that. The MPAA for whatever reason was like, yeah, this is cool. Like they were like, oh, this is fine. Like the cut that was supposed to make them disgusted, they were just like, oh yeah, like we're good. So that
well, you can put more in it if you want.
So I just thought that was a fun little tidbit where it didn't kind of work out, or it kind of backfired, that plan. All right, so we have.
Yeah.
I just patched in Chris Pollock. He had a quick question he wants to ask you before we wrap up here. Take it away, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm just in the other room here. because I'm at the house.
So, Chris,
What's up?
What's up, Chris?
Hello.
Hello. So my question is this, and I'm assuming everyone is a big fan of Scream 2. Gabby, I know that you were the biggest fan, probably, of this group that's on the show tonight.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the fucking terrible Master P song that plays over the end credits?
I hear him
Wait,
coming.
what's the song? I honestly can't remember. Isn't it like the typical '90s? What was the song?
Do I get bonus points if I sing part of it?
Do it, dude.
Yeah.
Do
yeah,
the whole
it.
thing. Do the whole thing.
I don't know. I just know the chorus.
Okay.
It goes, Scream, na 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 na.
Oh my God.
You could, you guys can look that up. I think there's a music video for the movie and everything. It's it's a real shit.
That was fucking Silk the Shocker too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I just want to know because every time that movie's on or I think about that movie, all I think about is, man, that song is such garbage. Why would they put that over the end credits just because it has Scream in it?
Oh,
They paid Master P for the rights to that song to put on the soundtrack, so he gets
that's crazy.
Residuals.
Oh, wow.
oh god. Yeah, it says here that song came out the same year, so
Better
it had
placement
to
for
have
them.
been popular.
They're just like,
Yeah.
he has this song called Scream. We're Scream 2. That's Synergy. That's on the soundtrack.
This will work, guys. I promise. Kids will love
All right. I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm at the house while Wesley's doing the record, but I didn't want to step on the show, so I'll leave you guys to it. Thanks for having me pop in, and hopefully I'll get to do some shows later on with some people.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Great question.
All right, Chris.
All right. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Any final thoughts on Scream 2 before we get out of here?
I mean, I recommended it to whoever hasn't seen it. If it's like a young person, I don't know. I obviously watched the first one, but yeah, I love this sequel. Like I said, from like the cast to except the score on this, the soundtrack on this film, but it has some good songs in there. And I don't know, just like I love the mixture of like horror and comedy. I think that's always been like my favorite kind of subgenre of horror. And the whole meta, like adding another film within a film. But yeah, I recommend it for those who have never seen it.
Don't say young people because I don't know about you, but I'm 32. I still feel young. And it makes me feel super old when you say young people.
I didn't see an age, so yeah.
I haven't felt young in like fucking 10 years, so.
Yeah,
I'm around the same age. But yeah, anybody who hasn't seen it, I don't want to generalize, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I still think that Scream 2, the one where everyone goes to college, was a better title.
Thank you for keeping that joke going. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, before we get out of here, I just wanted to say that the reveal for part 2 is so good. You got a young Timothy Oliphant who was largely unknown. I don't even think it was supposed to be him originally. He came on at the last minute, picked it up, killed it. He's chewing the scenery like nobody else. For whatever reason, it seems like a lot of people, he has a lot of haters saying that he was trying to be like Stu Macher, but until I read that, I never put those two together at all.
Me either.
And then, of course, Nancy Loomis, who's played by Laurie Metcalf, I believe. So insane. Again, coming from TV and just like really giving this unhinged, crazy performance that you really don't see coming. unless somebody spoiled it for you. Somebody that we forgot to talk about who plays a significant part in the original Cotton Weary, aka Lieb Schreiber. It's so good in part 2. And he is a big red herring where you think that maybe he could be in on it this time. But he ends up being the hero, and he gets his little Diane Sawyer interview with Sidney Prescott.
That's true.
In the end. And yeah, Sabretooth forever.
It's free, so go and watch it on Pluto.
James, you want to let all of our lovely listeners know where they can find us and what we do?
Sure. Yeah, so we are Drop the Mic. We are a San Diego-based podcast. We are pretty much available on every single platform that plays a podcast. So if you have the time, leave us a positive review, a 5 stars, a thumbs up, whatever that may be, whatever you have the time for. Share us with your friends, families, and coworkers. If you think they'd enjoy this episode or the previous episodes that we have in our huge catalog from the past. And we have an Instagram that me and Wesley are both attached to. It's at @dropthemic_podcast, and a Twitter that is at @dropthemicpod. Follow us on there too. Retweet us, whatever you want to do. You can DM us if you have a request that for a movie that we haven't done yet, or if you want to just tell us.
Of course, next week we're going to continue on with our Scream Revisited reviews with Scream 3. That's going to be awesome. I know a lot of people who played in our giveaway, our recent giveaway. Shout outs to you. And a lot of people surprisingly go to bat for Scream 3, saying it's their favorite, which is a goddamn hot take if I've ever heard one. So it's going to be awesome to kind of dissect this film and talk about its numerous troubles in production and kind of what happened to it in its entirety. And it'll be rad. And then, of course, after that, 4 and 5, we're going to do a double feature. So that way we squeeze everything into the month. And it's going to be a great showcase. So we hope you stick around. Again, thank you, 7 Octoberz, for coming on. This is a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. I know you haven't been on since a few years ago now. You did Devil's Rejects with us, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I thank you guys for having me on. It's pretty dope having, hearing everybody's different perspectives and stuff like that. Was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Anytime. And then thank you, of course, for having me on for Nightmare on Cedric Avenue. That was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, check out the episode. I don't know if I can shout out myself too, but that way they can check out your episode too.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Cedric Avenue is a podcast. It's on all streaming platforms and on YouTube. If you want to watch it in video format, and like Wes said, I had him on. I've had a couple other dope people from like the horror and hip hop community, and then if you want to follow me, it's at 7 Octoberz, and that's Octoberz with a Z at the end and the number 7 in the beginning. So 7 Octoberz on all social media.
Thank you, 7. Thank you, James. And of course, thank you, Ryan, for your time tonight. This was a lot of fun. So until next week, go watch Scream 6 again. Give it all your money. This is James Warney, Wesley Swanson, Ryan Jimenez, and 7 Octoberz signing off, saying good fight and good night.
How do we find the killer, Randy? That's what I want to know.
Oh, let's look at the suspects. There's Derek, the obvious boyfriend. Hello, Billy Loomis. The guy's pre-med and his pity me surface wound conveniently missed every major vein and artery.
So you think it's Derek?
Not so fast. Let's assume the killer, or Urs, has a half a brain. He's not a Nick at Night rerun type of guy. He wants to break some new ground. Right?
Right.
So forget the boyfriend. It's tired. Who else do we got?
There's
Mickey, the freaky Tarantino film student. But if he's a suspect, so am I. So let's move on.
Well, let's not move on. Maybe you are a suspect.
Well, if I'm a suspect, you're a suspect.
You have a point. Okay, let's move on.